so let's get started on the first part of this. And we're going to use one of these boards. We're going to need 6 of these JST 2.0 male plugs. And yes, these are the male plugs. A lot of people say the female plug is this one, and that is not the case. There's a long time argument in the RC hobby of which one's male and female with this types of plugs, where one housing goes into another one. But technically, in the electronics industry, this one with the pins is the male. The one that receives the pins is the female. Okay, the housing is insignificant whether it's male or female. So if you just think of it in a biological sense, you get the picture. Okay, trying to keep it clean for YouTube. Anyway, let's go into how we're going to configure this. Now, I'm going to use this side here. We're going to put all of these. Here's another thing you got to look at. Polarity. Polarity typically on the JST 2.0 is when you have the notch. You see how the notch is on this side but not on this side. There's a little notch on the battery plug that goes into that notch. And then the positive is going to be on that side of the notch. So according to our diagram, what we want is our positive to be this way. Okay, so we have our negative down here. So when we flip this over, we have the negative in the proper direction according to the diagram. So I'm going to start by putting that there, just like that. And this end has nothing on it. This end is where the XT60 and the balance lead is going to go. So we're going to go and skip 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th one from there. So with these JSTs, when you're looking at it, you got 3 visible actual pads right there in between. So we're going to do another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, went too far. Just pop these all in here. By the way, these boards, the hole pitch on these is 2.54, but with these boards, I noticed that the 2.0 pitch on these pins does still fit in here without spreading the pins out. They fit snug enough that you don't have to hold them in while you solder them, but they're not spreading the pins apart, pushing these together. I was going to get some 2.0 pitch boards, hole pitch boards, but they were hard to find, and when I did find them, they were quite expensive. So I just went with these, knowing that the 2.0 pitch will fit into these holes. Okay, so that's what we got now. All of them have the notch going this direction. All right, so the next thing is to solder those in, and I did not heat up my soldering iron. So we're going to wait for that to heat up. It won't take very long. And in the meantime, I'll talk about some issues with certain batteries and plugs and stuff like that. When you buy plugs, you got to watch your polarity on plugs if they're already wired up. And you got to watch the polarity on your batteries, because I have bought some batteries that had the polarity wrong on the battery pack. So like the red wire would be where the negative would be. When I put them on a meter, it showed a negative voltage when I had them correctly oriented. And so I had to switch the pins, because that could blow up your little quad or whatever, your little drone. So you got to watch that. Always check everything you buy. Make sure the polarities are correct. Like here's a good example right here. I bought these packs for this to get these male ends, because I couldn't find just the males. So I had to buy these packs that had, these were a 20 pack. It had 20 males and 20 females. The females were all already wired up. But look at this. I'm going to open this up while we're waiting for that soldering iron to heat up here. You look at this plug, and here's the typical battery Okay. Here's the plug I bought. Polarity's backwards. So you got to really watch that. If you're replacing a wire or something like that, or a plug or whatever, you need to watch your polarities, because these are all backwards. You have to change the polarity on these. And the way to do that is just get a little straight pin, a little really thin pin. You see these little legs on little legs right there. They actually hold the clips in. They're movable. You can move them, but this is what holds them down. So if you just gently put a little straight pin underneath there and lift that up just a little bit, just enough to slip this out, and it'll come right out. And then you just push those back down before you put them back in. Just make sure you push those little tabs back down. Don't push them too far, because then you'll break them off. You don't want to pull them up too far, because you'll definitely break them. So you can easily do that. Just a little straight pin. Just be patient and just very gently push on them. And sometimes they won't let go. Sometimes they will. You don't want to pull back on it while you're trying to lift the little notch there. But, once you get it up off of to clear that little pin that's right there to clip, it'll just slip right out. So don't force it. Just be patient and just wiggle it around, whatever you have to do, but just don't lift them up too high. But yeah, you got to check your polarities on everything. Everything you buy, check your polarities, because a lot of places have wrong polarities. That's what I was saying about these pre-made 6-1S cell, banks that you can plug in that are all just wired. Polarities backwards, and shorts in the system, in the wiring, that could make for a bad day with lipos. So anyway, yeah, that just wanted to show you that while that soldering iron's heating up. Okay, so we should have a good hot soldering iron. So we're going to make sure all these are set down in there good. And then I'm going to open this up a little more. Which way is it going? This is a handy little vise. It's got a little notch in there. I can put the boards right in there. You don't have to put it all the way across. You can put it right there like that. What I need to get is some board holder setups, which I've been looking at. I just haven't bought any yet. And when you put it in there, just make sure all your little PH2s are in there all the way. Make sure you always use a clean soldering tip. And now we're going to start soldering. So we're just going to solder each one of these. And I'll bump the camera. Come on, stop wobbling. Stop wobbling. There you go. Okay. So we're just going to go and get right there. Right there. Come on. Right there. Just going to do every one of these, and we are putting a little extra solder on here because we're going to be putting the wires to it. We're going to need that little extra solder on there, and we're probably going to have to add a little bit more later on. It's not going to look pretty, but everything's going to hold together. Okay, so now those are soldered in. And we're going to start by looking at our polarity, and I'm going to show you a little tip just to help you keep track of where you're going with everything. So we got the notches this way. So if you put a battery in there, you see your positive is on this side. So what you can do, take a little marker, a little Sharpie, and you can mark this side as your positive, and then flip it over, do that same side right there, mark a positive on it, or just a red mark, something that'll tell you that that's the actual positive. So that way when you flip it over and you're doing some soldering, you know which side's positive. And it comes in handy because sometimes you get in a rush and you just forget which side you're working on, and you could end up putting the polarity backwards. We actually should do this on the other end too, because this is the end where the XT60s are going to go, and the balance leads. Okay, so this side is the positive, and I just bumped the stupid camera again. All right, so just to make sure, double check. Yep, That side's positive. All the way down. So when we flip this over, now positive's towards us. And this end is where the XT60s and stuff is going to go. All right, so let's get this back in here. And we're going to do one wire, which I had a little piece of wire up here. What did I do with it? That's not it. Those aren't it. I just threw it in my little scrap wire bin. Now I am using 24 gauge wire for this. It's plenty enough for up to 500, 600, you know, even 1 amp will do, 24 gauge. But there ain't many 1S batteries out there that you're going to fly your whoops with that are that big anyway. So what we need to do is start from, this is number 1. This is the one closest to the end. So that's not where our other wires are going to go. This is the out for your wires to go to the charger. This end is number 1. So this will be number 6 all the way down here. So number 1 needs to have a negative, off the negative, going all the way up here to where we're going to plug in or solder in our XT60 and our balance lead negative. So we need to put a piece of wire right there. And what we're going to do to keep these out of the way and a little more neat is we are going to measure this. Bump the camera again. Sorry about that. We're going to measure this distance because we're going to go all the way across to this outer pad here. Measure that distance. We're going to strip that to about right there. By the way, this is all silicone coated wire, silicone sheathing. See if that's right. Not quite long enough. Can you get a little bit more off of there? Okay, that should do. So now that's a good length to get all the way out there and bridge it all the way across. So we're going to bend this 90 degrees right at the sheathing. We're going to lay this in here like this. And I might have to fiddle with the wire a little bit to get it to lay flat, to get it positioned. And once I have it positioned, here's a little something I use on stuff like this, is a alligator clip with double heat shrink on it. And you get it positioned on there just right. And now we can solder that on. It's held in place. Clean the solder tip. Always use a clean solder tip. I see people on YouTube doing soldering stuff, and the tip of their soldering iron is so filthy, it just makes me cringe. Problem is, I've been doing this since I was 6 years old, and please excuse my crappy soldering today. I've been a little shaky lately. All right, so now that's right there. We're going to turn this around because we are going to lay this down. Well, we're going to have to cut this off first. We're going to pull this all the way across here, right along that last line of pads. And we're going to clip it off because we're going to actually take this and put it, let me use a marker here so you can see a little better. We're going to take this and solder it to at least this one pad right here, maybe even that pad, and we're going to solder it to this pad here as well, because this is where our negative is going to go for the XT60 and the balance lead as well. All right, so we're going to strip, we're going to cut that about right here, and then we're going to strip it about right there. twist it. And let's lay it flat across here again. Stretch it out. And we're going to use our little alligator clip again to hold it in place. Then we're going to get this, I'll bump the camera again. We're going to get this bent over to where we can get to that pad and still hit that pad there. Now we got that positioned. Clean that tip off. You don't want oxidation all over the tip of your soldering iron. It makes for bad solder joints. All right, we're going to get this in here. And we're going to tin that wire all the way down as well as get it onto the pad. And we're going to put some extra solder on this pad over here because that is where we're going to be connecting other wires. We may as well put some extra solder up here because we're going to put the balance lead right there. We're going to put the XT60 right there. Just a little extra solder on there. Okay, so that's our negative wire going from the negative of the number 1 pH2O going all the way down. All right, the next step on this is we got to make this a series connection. So I said this video here, we're going to do this top section most of the way except for the wires coming off of this end. So we're going to get the series connection here, and I'll show you exactly how I do that. We're going to start with number 1 down here. This is our negative side, positive side. And what I'll be using is some 24 gauge solid strand wire. And we're going to cut a good section of this off. That way it's easier to work with instead of fighting with a spool. And we're going to strip off. This is not this is PVC coated, not silicone coated. And it doesn't matter because we're stripping this off. Okay. So once again, we're using our alligator clip to hold things in place. So we got to get this straight and not bowed in any direction when we lay it down. And we're going to go from the positive up here on this plug down to the negative of plug number 2. I need to get that right there. I'm going to lay them where this side is on the outside of the pin, and then this one is on the outside of this pin. So that way they're not in between those pins on the plugs. That's a little better. Okay, once we get it on that one pin, we're going to start with this pin over here. Get that soldered to that. Okay, got a little too much solder there. It looks like we might have a bridge. So if you get a nice clean tip, no tinning, just kind of right in between there, and it takes care of that little bridge that happened there. Okay, so now we can take the alligator clip off since that's together. Now at this point, we're going to clip this just to the outside of that. Lift it up just a hair so we can clip it. And it's still got contact there to that next pin, and I bumped the camera again. All right, so we're going to solder that down to that pin. What happened with that much solder? Well, that was crazy. The solder went on there. Big bead of solder. Like I said, excuse my crappy soldering today. I'm been really shaky. Okay, that'll do. Doesn't look pretty, but it's good solid connection. Okay, so we're going to continue down the line doing this, making these connections from positive to negative, doing them like this on the outside of each pin, so that way it doesn't get in between. We're going to go all the way down the line with this. I'll do one more, and then I will speed up the video to do the last few until we get to the other end on number 6, and I'll show you where we put that. Gotta quit bumping the camera. All right, that should be good enough. Holding it down. Okay. Let me clip this off again. Where it still makes contact. All right. Okay, so you see I got the two just like that. Positive to negative, and we're going to do the same thing here. Positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. When I get down here, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that one. So I'm going to speed up the video from here, get these other 3 on here, and we'll continue from there. Okay, so now we're going to have to do this last one right here. This is going to be your positive from here to your positive pad up here. We're going to do another piece of solid strand going across here. We're going to actually solder it down to this pad and this pad. So just one more piece. Of course, I had to turn this around in a vise so I can get to these other parts. Okay, solder it to this pad first. So we can kind of bend it if we have to a little bit. Okay, now we can clip this off a little bit from the end. And we can solder it onto the other pad out here. We're going to get further away from that so it doesn't start melting that and end up coming off. And like I said, we're putting a little extra solder out here because we're going to be doing an XT60. We're also going to solder it to this pad right here. It's not going to make a difference. It's just going to give it more strength in that pad there. So now we have a bridge going across as well as the actual wire underneath there. I'm going to bump the camera again. All right, so this part at this point is finished until we get to the part where we do the actual plugs on the end and stuff like that. So this is the top section where you put in your batteries, and you have, of course, your positive side, negative coming around. Just kind of a quick review. Negative coming from negative on number 1, going all the way up here to the negative side over here. Then you got positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, positive, just like that. So when we put our other plug on here, it's going to complete the circuit. Well, actually, when we put batteries and the plug on here, it's going to complete the circuit. So right now, looks like everything's good. Doesn't look like any shorts, but we are going to check that with a continuity test at the end of this when we get everything put together. So if you want to see the rest of this video, we're going to do the bottom plate. We're going to connect, the next video we're going to connect this. We're also going to connect the wires for the XT60. We're going to, turn on, put the XT60 on I'm going to get everything connected just like it is in this one. And then we're going to actually test it. Hopefully we can get all that done in one video without taking too much time. But it might end up being a 3-part video. And we'll see what happens here. But anyway, thanks for watching. And I will upload this, the second video tomorrow. Hopefully everything goes well and I can get it uploaded tomorrow. And if there is a third video, it'll be on the next day. And that way you guys can watch them. And I'll put links for everything that I have here, everything that I purchased anyway. Even this kit right here, which would be overkill for someone who's just wanting to do a few of these. You could probably find these boards somewhere else in a smaller kit, just enough to get you going. And I'll put links to like all the plugs. I'll put links to, you know, the XT60, the XT60s, the wire. I'll see about getting a plug, place to get the wire, and the balance leads and the balance lead protectors. And I like putting these on because it makes it so much easier to pull it in and out of the charger. And I'll show you a little trick with these too. You can put heat shrink around these to make sure they stay on, because sometimes these will pop off. And I've lost a few of them on my quads, because I put them on my quads too. But it's, you lose them, you end up with just a wire like that, and it's not very protected. They can get yanked out quite easily. Next video will be up tomorrow, and we'll do the bottom section of this with the other board, and hopefully get it completed. And if it didn't take too long, we're going to do the testing and everything else. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Be tuned in tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get this project done.